And there we go. Now we are past these two just pretty much punching bag devils at this point. I really am hoping that once we get to the more important ones, we can get more of a Zagrid type of presence, of just something that looms over and has that devilish aura more than just someone Asta can run through, like a chapter 25 villain. But the chapter itself was interesting to see. I liked after he knocked it like far to place, he ended up having the upgraded version of the Demon Dweller sword, and it has like these cool elongated spikes. I think that's just generally a neat little addition. The Demon Dweller, in my opinion, has always been the most overpowered of his swords, just from the fact that, when we saw Licht use it, he just touched a spell and it would, start just being drawn right to it. So on top of that, you can, if you stab somebody with it, you can absorb, their internal magic, not just magic they've dispensed already. So it's in my opinion the best one. We don't see it used as much, and here we're just seeing Asta use some gigantic black slashes, which granted were really cool. I liked seeing that. I thought that was pretty interesting. Just that on display gives him a general nice upgrade to his abilities. Like, we can really compare this to where he was in base at the start when he's using the black slashes against those spade grunts, and he's just like making casual ones, and here's his full serious ones are multiple fold bigger, which again is just one of those nice comparative instances, just to kind of give like a general visual of the gaps in strength for that Asta to current Asta in this state. But it does seem more like it's evident that the one maybe that threw Libe at the gate is one of the Twin Devils, because we get a little bit more of Libe's backstory with time in the first floor of the underworld. And he's like saying, when he was the weakest at the first level of the underworld, he never thought he could match up to Supreme Devils. And I'm wondering what it's like just living down there. Do these two just like roam around harassing other devils? Because it seems like just like maybe beating these two is good for everybody, even after they defeat the defeat the spade at however far they get, or assuming they don't lose and Lucifaro gets out. But just like imagine it goes back to like, okay, the gates are sealed, they stop the Dark Triad, and they only let out X amount of devils. But it's like the first floor would probably be not so bad with the twins gone, because they're just roaming around harassing people. But after that point, like, Libe is just talking a lot of shit. I thought that was really cool when he's talking about how, like, oh, thanks to Asta, he's able to kind of fight against these highest level devils. And while Asta's going in, like, just using his attacks, this is Lilith at this point. Just Nama's gone. He's just become fusion material at this point. But she's not really sure what's happening, and Libe's saying how it's an emotion that they just never really experienced because of the fact that they just, pretty much bullied the weakest devils in all of the underworld, so they never would run into anybody that to challenge, so they would never understand fear. And it was nice to see Libe just, flex on him right before Asta was working his way over there. And it was funny because we see we see Lilith being somewhat smart in this last part of the fight. And I'm just like, it's too late to be smart now. You goofed around the whole fight and you lost. That, like, legitimately, Lilith and Nama felt so much to me like early series Black Clover bad guys, where they didn't take Asta seriously, and Asta was able to deal with them because of, anti-magic is just it's almost always a factor. It really just depends on how the fight goes between them versus Asta. Like, they did not do well. You can't just be like, oh, I guess I gotta take them seriously now and try and analyze the situation now. It's like, no, you already killed the other dude. Like, at the very start when Asta showed up and Asta was doing anti-magic and dispatching, their magic, that was an indicator, one, probably take this guy seriously. When Nama lost a hand to Asta, That was the second sign, hey, you should probably take this guy seriously. And then he cuts Nama in half, and Lilith decides still not to take Asta seriously. And I'm just like, you are not, it's too late. You had so many chances. You kept fumbling every single opportunity you had to make a smart, big brain call, and you just kept staying like an idiot. No, too late. Get out of here. Like, this is a classic, just absolute clown show of a measuring stick bad guy. Like I've said, these devils were nothing more than setting a bar for the following devils to come up. They were not that impressive, really, when you think about it. Even with Noct, where they got their whole, like, burning invisible concepts feat, but in reality, like, that same spell that apparently did this hit Noct and didn't kill him. It just seems like pretty much like a magic wiping spell. And then they, it also damages, because Noct lived from that. And it's really weird when people try and say, like, oh, they weren't trying to kill him, but it's like, Noct was in the spell. Their spells encompassed the entirety of his spells. Noct took the same hit that destroyed it. It's like, you think that, like, they used the spell and then made an exact Noct-shaped different spell on top of that and never mentioned it, didn't indicate that. And it's like, no, they're just not that impressive. Outside of their one hack spell, they didn't fight really that smart. They just stood there and were being clowns the whole time. Lilith and Nama are not, like, they're kind of, they're like when we first get, like, a bad guy group. And then, in reality, they're the weakest. And because of not only that, their complete jokely performance, they lost. Once we get to devils, probably more like somewhere like Megicula, who is clearly like a smart person. Like Megicula having a widespread type of magic, like curse magic, means that he's got to be very tactical and smart. And like he's demonstrated that he seems pretty analytical and like he watches and keeps an eye on stuff as like the fight goes on, as we saw in like the fight with over in the Heart Kingdom with Laura Pechka and Noelle against Vonica. Way more active as like a devil than what Lucifaro or what Xenon's devil were like. We actually got like direct interactions between Megicula and the characters that Vonica was fighting. So once we get to more important ones like that, because like this is just like ones that were thrown in there just to be the start. And I assumed they weren't going to be that big of a deal when I noticed there were two on the first gate. Because when you think about it, their level of threat is probably about what the next one has plus more. Like the Lilith we just saw with fused with Nama and doing these big spells, that's like the baseline of what the next guy's going to have, but more. And then if the next devil can come out and like actually take things seriously and not be an idiot, then it'll be way more of that threat level of a character. Because in all honesty, like Lilith and Nama did not do a whole lot in terms of performance. Like they only really did stuff for a couple chapters other than stand around. And even in their fights themselves, they didn't do any tactical moves. They just threw their magic all around the place. They didn't do anything smart. And I've been arguing with people about this recently, about like them and Zagrid. But like think about like how Zagrid fought. Zagrid would figure out like what his opponent's magic was, and then say a magic that countered it. Like with uses wind magic, uses vacuum wall to create a vacuum of space, like or a vacuum in the air where obviously wind is just going to get sucked into, and and he just can make natural counters. He can make matter. He's got like all these different abilities based off of like for the most part one base like ability with his word soul magic. Like these devils did not do that well, and they're just like they're another example of just like a character who is hacks, and the second somebody can get around your hacks, you get pretty much beaten because you don't have a whole lot like otherwise. Like Lilith and Nama were not their presence. It reminds me of like when Urza fought Midnight, and Midnight, who had a really dangerous magic with his whole reflector magic. Once Urza was able to figure out pretty much how to beat his magic and just get around it, the dude had no idea what to do other than just go to like last ditch efforts, because he never really thought of what would happen if he fought somebody that knew how to get around, his hacks. So Lilith and Nama got like, they get like an okay. Like, I wouldn't say they did terribly, because I don't think that they were meant to be bigger characters. I think they were meant literally just to be a show off of how strong the first, like the base starting guys in the Devil Union, and then the devils in the Tree of Kulthon. They are just where things start. They just had to be impressive enough that they were a general threat, because where they weren't really that much of a threat to Devil Union Asta, that doesn't change the fact that they were still able to overpower like Noct level people. And now it just means that we need to see more from the next tree devils. Like, say like the next one comes out and fights Fuego Leon, Dorothy, and Nozel. Like those three ended up, since they're not in any of the Dark Triad fights and stuff, they haven't really fought anyone major yet. Say all three of them on the second tree devil, and it's like all three of them combined are being pushed by like one of them. That I think would be like a really nice next step, because I don't want Asta just to run through these guys. And there was one thing people were talking about recently, is that the Dark Triad at 100%, at least Dante, but I think all of them have to be stronger than Lilith and Nama, because otherwise Asta is going to no-diff Dante, and then it's like there's no value in keeping Dante around if he's going to get no-diffed with, like, by the main character like that. Because that's the level of... That's like the level of what you give to an old character, like say like something like Bluno when Natsu came back after the time skip from Tartarus. You just no-diff some old strong guy. Dante has more in the current story that it would just kind of be wasteful. Like if Tabata brought back, say, like if Ladros or somebody came back, somehow absorbed the Earth Spirit and got a devil and something crazy, and then Asta ran through just this upgraded version of him, that'd be like, okay, yeah, you can use older characters for that, but I don't want it to be for Dante. So Dante has to be stronger, otherwise what's the point? So I'm very interested in a lot of the stuff moving forward from here. I know like the Dark Triad in general, I know everyone really is excited to see what their 100% do. Like, what exactly is the gap? Because we know from Noel's fight with Vanica, each percent is like significant, a significant boost, and I would assume that the difference between 99% and 100% is huge as well, because it's complete at that point. You have the full form. That's why prior it was more like their their devil energy, their anti or negative mana kind of more like layering over them. Whereas at 100%, it looks like they're part devil in their new forms. It looks like it's more that they are hybrids now. And that's one of the things I'm really hyped for in the next chapter. Because, like, this one was cool. Like, I liked seeing Asta in Devil Union, seeing how, like, what he's capable of. The parts where Libe was talking shit. And then Noct coming in and helping after Lilith decided to run. Noct is showing up through her shadow, grabbing her so Asta could catch up and cut her. That was nice. The whole pop out at the end where Asta and Libe are both holding the different swords, which I actually really liked. I like that they're both holding the swords when he pops out, because technically that arm should be sorta his arm, with Asta having given it to him in the contract for the Dante fight. But also one thing that I'm noticing is the swords are back in their plain kind of rusted, all ashy design. Like, they're just kind of all dirty looking. And that means that maybe they can't turn it into those pitch black versions for a while, or the upgraded versions. I just kind of think of it like they are, they just had a short circuit of their power, and has to like take time to restart, essentially, where it's like, oh, for X amount of time, we just can't use anti-magic or something like that. Or maybe they're just kind of restricted to the base forms of the sword. I think that's probably the most likely case, because it's like, If it's just no anti-magic in general, it would be like Asta having a weakness where he's completely useless after that would be like, I don't like that idea. I'm really hoping that's not the case now that I think about it. I kind of like the idea more, it's like the base forms. Whatever the sword does in its base status. Like, okay, yeah, we just have the base mana absorption with the Demon Dweller. The Demon Slayer is back to, you know, cutting and being able to reflect. And the Demon Destroyer sword can just do like the little anti-magic debuff, you know, canceling and, you know, canceling cause and effect things of types of magic. So we'll see how things kind of continue from here on. I think that Lilith and Nama did I think they did an alright job for what I think they were, just kind of measuring stick characters. They were just supposed to set a bar for the more serious ones. Because I don't think Asta is going to be able just to clap every single devil that comes out. Otherwise, this would be boring. Like, I think that once we get, like, the stronger, smarter devils, it's going to be more of, like, what it was like with Zagrid, where Asta had the potential to kill him throughout the fight. It was just, like, because Zagrid fought so intelligently that it made it hard for them to even approach him or get close to him. Like, say like, if Lilith and Nama, like, were smart, they could do stuff like use his devil fire magic to just melt the area around him, so just make it so it's dangerous for Asta to touch any terrain, as well as, you know, melting the ceiling of areas could make, like, lava and burning debris come down. And, you know, molten steel is, you know, against Asta isn't, you know, it's not magic based, it could still damage him. Or you could have Lilith use ice to thin the, like, mess with the oxygen in the room. Like, just make it so it's harder for him to breathe. Because that's one of those things that we don't see a lot of in Black Clover, but we know it's possible by people smart enough how to use their abilities. And that's one of the things about Dante that's underrated, is how Dante uses his gravity manipulation to mess with space. Because that's why when Asta would slash through it, it wouldn't just cancel it out, because he's not using spatial magic, he's using gravity to affect space. He's able to kind of like find a cheat way to fight him by, you know, making spatial magic as a byproduct of gravity magic. Say like Lilith could just mess with the oxygen in the area with her magic, but the oxygen in the area isn't getting affected from magic, sort of, in the same way that, like, if you, say, fought, like, if Yuna was doing it by, like, messing with the oxygen in the area. Maybe, or somebody had, like, maybe you had somebody with, like, vacuum magic that could just, you know, mess with the oxygen in the area, then he could cancel it out that way. It would just be kind of a really, again, intelligent way for them to fight. And I'm hoping that once we get to the next couple devils, whichever one comes out next, will be more valuable just to the general events, and hold for like just a greater period of time than what these devils did. Granted, I just wanted to see them kind of do stuff. I never had any personal investment in them as characters. It was just, hey, do big things, like attack, fight people. It's not like with the Dark Triad. I actually like the Dark Triad's characters, and like I mentioned, I like Dante. I think Dante's a really interesting bad guy, and I would like to see more of him. But like with Lilith and Nama, I'm like, I don't care about them. Even like side bad guys, I want to see Morris. I want to see Morris way more than I want to see Lilith and Nama. I'd rather actually see Lotus, to be perfectly honest. Like I always like Lotus. He's like, again, a bad guy that I have interest in his character, so I want to see him. I mean, like, it's not even just they're devils, I don't care about them. It's like, no, like, I'm interested in Megicula, I'm interested in Lucifaro. I'm interested in the one that feels more that there's more to them other than I'm a very powerful bad guy. Like, Zagrid was really interesting because of the way he tied into the story and what his character meant for everything, as well as he had a really just fun personality in general, like, of just being like this wicked, vile devil. I thought he was just cool on a lot of levels, and that's again what I'm hoping for with maybe if it's Xenon's devil, Megicula, Lucifaro. Who knows how they're gonna really kind of play out? Because Lilith and Nama didn't have anything other than, hey, this like setup bosses is gonna show up at one point. We didn't have their names hyped or anything. We got their name when they showed up, and then they're killed relatively within the same sequence of that they were summoned. Like, this would just feel like one part of, you know, of an arc. Like, if I could just give, like, an idea of where I think this would fit, is this would be, like, in Black Clover. Think of it back when stuff was on VHS. Like, VHS Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the perfect way to build, like, the level of bad guy that I view Lilith and Nama. If you remember back, it would be the set of episodes would be what it was like on the cover. But it's obviously different than in the manga, because usually episodes will take like 2+ times what's in the manga. So you could have part of a manga volume cover, you know, cover only half of what it could be. In you know, some ideas, and you'd see like Weevil Underwood, I think, was on volume. Let me look this up really quick. This is something I really want to finish this thought. But I think it was Weevil Underwood was on like the volume, I think, 2 cover, and he was a bad guy really like for the main character for just that first part of Duelist Kingdom. So Lilith and Namat, like, if you really thought of like, oh, Black Clover coming out like in the same way like that they had on VHS, Lilith and Namat would be villains on the cover of one of those, and that's the totality of their character. Not like Zagrid or someone like Patri, or like they're like in the same probably overall story level as someone like Ladros. They are gonna be cool for this first section, but like people forget they're not that important to what's going on. They're just powerful devils. The devils after this are what's gonna really kind of set like a more important area for the future of the story. I'm just looking up. I don't get my search results for the Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Volume 2 VHS Into the Hornet's Nest. That just think about like that, but it'd be like Lilith and Nama looming over the Spade Kingdom, and then the next volume, it's, you know, that volume 3 would cover probably whatever is next to this, and to be more important in the total story of, you know, the tree and the Dark Triad and the Spade and everything. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, friend, like button, subscribe button to check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening.